Wang Zichuan, a Ashes-level reader of the original work, has become the first-place winner in the book's tragic competition. He is the son of the original chaos and now the lamp god of the wishing lamp. The long road of freedom begins with breaking up with the mysterious queen, joining Kemiao, and becoming an angel investor. A little cutie has established a book friend group. If you are interested, you can add QQ5705986001 keywords of the novel. Mystery. The Path of Freedom of the Lamp God without pop-ups, mystery. The Path of Freedom of the Lamp God. Download the full text, mystery. The Path of Freedom of the Lamp God. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. The Mysterious Beginning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The mysterious beginning. Surrounded by an endless stream of light golden mist, Wang Zichuan woke up from a chaotic state. As he regained his consciousness, the light golden color that filled the space became thick and viscous, slowly pulling out a human figure. This figure gradually became clear, with a clear and graceful face, as if there were shadows. The body was tall, the clothes were gorgeous and complex, and the patterns were layered and disorderly, giving people a feeling of thinking reversal and behavior disorder at a glance. He appeared very confused. The pale gold around began to surge, and a door shimmering with starlight was outlined above the space. Seeing this door, Wang Zichuan suddenly surged with a fierce and unwilling aura, inexplicable force driving him towards the light gate. However, as he moved, the light gate seemed to suddenly become illusory. Countless layers of virtual shadows from the gates shrouded him, colliding and shattering with the pale golden water flow. Dots of starlight fell into the surging pale golden ocean, seemingly receiving some invisible command. The pale golden ocean calmed down, and the debris of starlight floated on the surface of the sea, shimmering slightly. Before touching the door, Prince Chuan stopped and muttered to himself. What's going on? Where is this? How could I be here? Wang Zichuan began to work hard to recall, spirituality surged out, and memories flowed into his mind like a torrent. I don't know how long it took, but Wang Zichuan regained consciousness once again. Ha! So I am the son of chaos, that unlucky old day. No, I'm not. I'm a traveler. I'm a person outside of the high-dimensional universe book. I'm Prince Chuan. I am not the unlucky one who was deceived by the old silver coin heavenly sovereign into losing everything in a mysterious world, and I also have to be imprisoned and sold out to work. Thinking of this, Wang Zichuan couldn't help but want to make an expression called, breaking tears into a smile, to emphasize his tone. But now that old shame, the son of chaos, is me. No, just thinking about it makes me feel like it's about to crack open. No, I need to find a way. I have to go out. The Earth is too dangerous, and I want to go back to space. After calming down, Wang Zichuan began to calculate. First of all, I am already the old days. Although I have lost so many features and the source material due to bad luck, no one will be able to defeat me by then. However, my position is still there, and I cannot do anything about the stars or the old days. The so-called knowledge is poisonous, but I am invincible to all poisons. After all, I am also a big poison source. And what Amon, Adam, 008, the existence of the fool PTSD, are all my brothers here. As long as the old silver coin does not revive, who am I afraid of? Secondly, I was sealed by the heavenly sovereign in this Lashizi divine lamp and became the lamp god. In the eyes of everyone or the gods, I am just a seal. Although the gods should know that this is a seal involving external gods, hey, what kind of malicious intent can a seal have? It just wants freedom. Finally, my current holder is Bernadelle, and Bernadelle has already made a wish once, which means the fool may not have fallen or just woken up. Although I just need to be patient and wait for fate to arrange our meeting, according to the plot line of the original work, Klein will come to trade with me and promise to send me back to the starry sky. But that's already the end of the world. The initial barrier has disappeared, and the melee between the past has begun. What if I, this weak external god who has lost its characteristics and source material, are once again pitted into scum? Moreover, my body and soul strongly crave the lost parts, and if they cannot be retrieved, I will increasingly be unable to resist this crazy sense of aggregation. I don't want to become a twisted and eerie crazy critic. So, I have to go out. I need to help General Ku ascend to the position of the mysterious master as soon as possible, and completely suppress the recovery of the old silver coin. According to Mr. Ku's kind and grateful personality, he is definitely willing to repay me, unlock the seal for me, and may even help me regain the characteristics and disorder of the country. If I could gain his trust and occupy this side of the earth during the Old World War, I should still be able to merge with the uncertain mist and become a powerful old world beyond its pillars, freely roaming the universe and stars. People, no, in the past, there must be some dreams. What if they come true? Set a small goal for yourself first, leave Bernadelle, go to Mr. Ku's side, be a happy A-round angel investor, help him, take care of him to grow quickly, and grow into the old days as soon as possible. Hey, think about it and feel a little excited. All that remains now is how to trick Bernadelle into sending me out. Misty Sea, Lucia Island, Emerald City. Your Majesty, there has been a change in your collection room. Please go and take a look. The maid hurried over and saw a tall figure gazing out at the vast blue sea in the sunset. Your Majesty, just now Mr. Perry sent someone to deliver a message that there is an abnormal power outbreak in your collection room, and he dare not leave. He is still guarding in place. To prevent any unforeseen circumstances, please go and take a look. Okay. The woman with chestnut long hair withdrew her gaze, turned her body, and looked at the maid. Did I say what item's abnormality was? No, the maid immediately replied. The Emerald City of the mysterious Queen, Bernadelle, has a collection of many magical items, some of which come from years of exploring the 5 seas, some from the collection of Elemental Dawn, and more from gifts from her father, especially high-level magical items. Thinking of her father, Bernadelle felt a tingling sensation in her heart. She harbors both resentment and longing for her father. For many years, Bernadelle has traveled across the 5 seas, trying to find her father's trace. She wants to know why her father's personality changed greatly in his later years, and whether his father can still be alive. Suppressing complex thoughts, Bernadelle walked all the way to her collection room and saw Ike Perry staring at a quaint oil lamp quietly placed on a shelf from a distance, as if facing a formidable enemy. It has a golden color throughout, with a slightly outdated feel. It is adorned with exquisite and complex patterns, resembling a small water bottle, but a wick extends from the spout and is not ignited. It is constantly emitting a majestic force field, giving the surrounding air a sense of distortion. It is a gift from my father, with the seal number 005, a wishing lamp. The current situation is that the wishing lamp has never been in a state before, and Bernadelle didn't know how to seal it for a moment. The wishing god lamp is rare, but holding it without using it will not have a significant negative effect as a level 0 seal. Of course, as long as the holder can resist the temptation of the lamp god. However, usually the holder cannot resist its temptation. People will have desires, things they want, and desires they want to fulfill. The lamp god can amplify the holder's desire and entice them to make wishes to it. Once someone makes a wish to it, it will distort the way the wish is fulfilled, causing terrible consequences and even leading to a more painful situation than death. So Bernadette usually doesn't keep it by her side. After all, she knows her obsession with her father and may not be able to resist the temptation to make a wish to resurrect him from the magic lamp. Even if not placed by her side, but in the collection room, the magic lamp often seduces her to make wishes through dreams. However, distance weakens her ability to amplify desires, and relying solely on the power of language, it is difficult to shake the will of high-sequence powerhouses. As time passed, the crazy magic lamp gradually quieted down, no longer displaying its supernatural powers, as if the power just leaked was just an illusion. Bernadette's azure eyes gazed at the wishing lamp, suddenly becoming profound and distant, as if penetrating reality in gazing at fate. However, in just 1 second, Bernadette suddenly closed her eyes, her spirituality shook, and tears and blood left at the corners of her eyes. She suddenly remembered that her father had told her that this magic lamp could not even shatter a true god. In a short glance, Bernadette only saw a thick golden ocean blending with grey mist, with twinkling stars, without any prophecy or revelation. Wang Zichuan was contemplating his future plans when his inspiration was suddenly triggered and he felt that someone was peeking at his own destiny. Yoho, let me see, who dares to pry into an old fate. Wang Zichuan let his strength penetrate a little beyond the magic lamp and discovered Bernadette, whose face was covered in blood and tears. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Enchantment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 3. Variables. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Variables. Sezen's words fell, and the already quiet basement became even more audible. Cyan waited for a while, only to find that no one spoke up to inquire, so she continued. This prophecy is. A variable will come to life, and countless fates will be rewritten. The leader's revelations include rules, disorder, and dawn. Variables. Rules. What does this represent? Perhaps Her Majesty the Queen knows that I need to write a letter to tell her about this matter. Carrie remained calm on the surface, but couldn't wait to tell the Queen about it. You have channels and sources of information in Indies, in Rune, in various countries on land, or above the sea. The leader wants us to collect unexpected, strange, and unusual events that have occurred in various places during this period of time. Variables may be hidden in these inconspicuous little things. You can now report the recent events that you think are suspicious. Cyan conveyed the prophecy of the leader of the Morse ascetic order and requested that important peripheral personnel of the organization provide possible clues. It is said that the Ghost Empire has reappeared once again, with countless pirates flocking to the sea, chasing this ghost ship into the misty sea. A rough mining voice rang out, his face rough, hair disheveled, and his burly figure, which looked like a person who had been drifting on the sea for a long time. There has been a change in the secret intelligence department of the Indies military, but my informant was unable to obtain a more specific reason. The lady speaking had a lazy voice, and her long linen hair was soft and curly, like rippling waves, spreading out behind her head. Additionally, in the near future, the secret society may be secretly searching for an item, or it could be a person, as I inferred from their organization's mobilization of lower-level personnel. The woman's voice was as smooth as hot cocoa, and all she provided were intelligence related to Indies. There is a newly rising socialite in the upper echelons of Trier, a very, very charming young lady. Everyone turned their heads when they heard this, and the speaker quickly added, I mean, this is a sudden appearance. There were no rumors before, and it's quite abrupt. Unmarried ladies usually don't behave like this, so open. Amidst the disdainful gaze of the crowd, he coughed lightly and continued. I have another piece of news here. The archbishop who defected from the Night Church 2 years ago seems to have appeared in Trier. At this moment, a man with a typical Rune appearance suddenly answered. The Black Knight Church's Red Glove team in Beckland has been frequently mobilized recently, so it turns out it's because of this. Everyone whispered and discussed for a while about the defected bishop of the Orthodox Church, and then several others spoke one after another. There was a farm in Siegel where all the crops died overnight. A factory in Compton suddenly collapsed during daytime working hours, not because it had been in disrepair for a long time, but because it was said to have been newly built 2 years ago. The gathering took turns providing intelligence within their sphere of influence, some of which were valuable and some sounded like local tabloid headlines. Jayadilia didn't want to say anything at first. She didn't have much sense of belonging to the mosques and had been wandering around the edges of the organization. As an extraordinary voyeur, she was developed into a peripheral member of the Morse asceticism after leaving the dawn. Because of this, there are rumors from the outside world that the Star General will break away from the mysterious queen and leave the sea. One of the most famous treasure legends on the sea, the key to the Grim Reaper, has new clues, and some treasure hunters are chasing these clues. Jayadilya pondered for a while, but still revealed a relatively confidential message. After almost everyone had spoken to some extent, Sayin spoke again. The variables in the leader's prophecy are very important to us. As members of the organization, you should actively run around, gather information, and quickly find anomalies. You can report all anomalies, and the organization has a way to verify them. For the information you report, the organization will provide corresponding rewards. After the secret gathering ended, Jayadilya returned to the future, which was parked at the port. On the future, there was silence, without the noisy and boastful voices of the sailors, nor the sound of running and jumping. Jayadilya's heart sank, worried that something bad might happen to the future during her absence. In an eerie and quiet atmosphere, Jayadilya suddenly heard the sound of things being moved from the lower level of the cabin. Let the star light up in her palm, and Jayadilya slowly walked down the cabin. The sound came from the warehouse containing the liquor, as if someone was moving it. Jayadilya cautiously approached the warehouse door, which opened wide. A hunched figure was moving barrels of beer to their rightful position, arranged neatly. "Frank, what are you doing?" Seeing that it was Frank, Jayadilya relaxed a bit and asked in a calm voice about Frank's abnormal behavior. Suddenly hearing the captain's voice, Frank was startled, but quickly turned around and said with a smile, "I'm organizing these beers, Captain." "Where are the others?" Jayadilya quickly asked. "They are all in their own rooms," Frank replied with a smile. "What's going on? Aren't they planning to hold a drinking competition while I'm not around and there won't be anyone restricting them?" Jayadilya suppressed the constantly rising strange emotions in her heart, controlled her voice, and continued to inquire calmly. "They're too noisy, Captain." Frank scratched his hair and said with some annoyance, "I think they should be quiet for a while and rest well. I injected some special sedative and sleeping pills into each barrel of beer, which were very effective. Captain, you see, they have all calmed down now." Frank became excited again and continued, seeming to be grateful, "I'm afraid they might catch a cold and get sick sleeping on the deck, so I've moved them all back to their rooms. But it's okay if they get sick. I've developed several fruit-flavored potions, and taking them is like eating fruits, both nutritious and healing. It's really a wonderful thing." Jayadilya had already put away the starlight in her palm, remained silent for a few seconds, and then asked another question. "When will they be able to wake up?" "Tomorrow morning, when the sun rises. It won't delay tomorrow's itinerary." Jayadilya silently returned to the captain's cabin. The night gradually darkened, and the waves blown by the sea breeze became deeper and deeper. The future was gently swayed by the ripples that spread out one after another, and the sound of splashing water hit the future one by one. On a rare night without the crew laughing and shouting, Jayadilya felt peaceful and tranquil. Her thoughts drifted back to her childhood, to the Emerald City, and to the dawn. Thinking of this, Jayadilya suddenly stood up, found a pen and paper, and began to write quickly. The Morse asceticism received a prophecy about the present world of variables. This prophecy is: the pillars are issuing orders to all members of the organization to search for anomalies. Jayadilya stopped writing, pondered for a moment, and added another sentence. You should have a better understanding of this prophecy and be able to see more clearly the specific directions of the things symbolized in it. If you are also interested and have something I need to do, please reply. At this point, Jayadilya hesitated for a moment and her pen tip came to a standstill. After being silent for at least a minute, she suddenly moved her pen quickly again, crossed out the previous few sentences, and then rewrote them. This prophecy may also have some significance for the element dawn. If you are interested in the variables pointed out by the prophecy, you can also collect corresponding intelligence, hoping to be helpful to you. Jayadilya reviewed the letter she had just written from the beginning, feeling that there were no inappropriate words, and then took out another piece of paper to copy the letter. Folding the letter paper, she took out an exquisite golden harmonica, gently stroked it, and then placed it on her lips, playing it silently. There was no coldness, no breeze, nothing changed except for the folded letter paper disappearing out of thin air. In the magnificent palace on Lucia Island, Bernadette has not yet fallen asleep. She was suddenly inspired and found a letter lying quietly by the bedside. She opened the folded letter and saw the familiar and delicate handwriting. Variables. Rules. Misorder. What does this symbol point to? Things related to rules, the Black Emperor and the Judge pathway. If it can affect the end of the world, it should be related to divinity. Black Emperor, divine. Bernadette's body suddenly trembled violently. Is it his father? Father, has he been resurrected? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The Plan of the Lamp God. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The plan of the lamp god. Bernadette was restless due to her own speculations, sometimes excited and uncontrollable. Her joy surged up like bubbles, and then hesitated and fell, afraid of making mistakes. Her father's life and death were still unknown, and she blindly pursued without any clues. After enduring until late at night, Bernadette finally fell asleep. In her sleep, Bernadette once again heard familiar whispers. Since the last time the wishing lamp suddenly erupted with power and eerie calmness, the lamp god has been dreaming of Bernadette every day, using sweet words to incite her to make wishes. This made Bernadette realize that she was in a dream as soon as she heard the voice of the lamp god. Perhaps the lamp god does not have much talent for instigation, even though the future described by the lamp god appears incredibly beautiful after his wishes are fulfilled. It always gives people a feeling of emptiness and dryness. This allows Bernadette to avoid the impact without being very restrained. This also made it difficult for her to contain a thought that the lamp god seemed to be doing routine work without any sincerity. Nevertheless, the night dream of the magic lamp also seriously affected Bernadette's sleep. Even if the temptation was not strong, she dared not relax her guard, kept her nerves tense, and remained vigilant until the lamp god withdrew from her dream, like checking in every day, before daring to sleep again. Bernadette thought it would be the same tonight, but unexpectedly, the lamp god did not repeat his previous seductive words. Bernard Gustave, the holder of the wishing lamp, believes that we are not strangers. After a period of preparation, Wang Zichuan finally began to take action. He planned to have a formal communication with Bernadette again, prepare to openly request to leave, see Bernadette's reaction, and then make the next plan. Lamp God. Bernadette had already come to her senses, and even if her dream shattered, the voice of the lamp god did not disappear. Yes, I think I've already told you before that my fate is not with you. I hope you can send me somewhere, said Prince Chuan in a low voice, without any hint of temptation. Can you communicate normally like humans? Of course, I'm not crazy. Before becoming a seal, I was a normal human. It wasn't a seal with living characteristics that got out of control or died. I was made into a seal by someone alive. So, I have reason, I am very clear-headed. That's not entirely correct. To be precise, before becoming a seal, I was a normal old day. I was made into a seal by living with pillar-level old days. Wang Zichuan silently shed a bitter tear for himself after the previous son of chaos. Bernadette did not continue to respond, and for a moment there was some hesitation, not knowing whether to believe the words of the lamp god. She had always known that the wishing lamp was not an ordinary seal, and when dealing with wishes, the lamp god also demonstrated wisdom and autonomy beyond living characteristics. If I don't pay attention to the request of the lamp god, will he come over every night? During this period of time, I have felt that I have been experiencing some neurasthenia. But does a seal, or an evil spirit, have credibility in their words? Bernadette believed that even if he appeared rational, his inner self would be crazy, even twisted, and an existence that could not be inferred from human thinking. After careful consideration, Bernadette spoke up, "I can't believe you. I haven't seen any seals that won't harm humanity yet. Regardless of their form of expression, those that can communicate rationally or refuse to communicate with humans follow their instincts, yearning for more life, more freedom, and more freedom to do as they please. Once constraints are released, they will cause huge harm to humanity. Well, I know I may not be able to trust you, but I think you can make some attempts. For example, taking me by your side, I promise not to harass you every day. Staying in the spiritual wall every day is really boring. For example, you can ask me some mystical questions when you need them, which is not a wish, but you can fulfill my needs for certain characteristics or materials appropriately." Wang Zichuan worked hard to make his voice appear calm, appearing to have some credibility. If the problem can be peacefully resolved, Wang Zichuan does not want to engage in any conspiracy or scheme. Characteristics and materials. What does he want to do? Is he an evil spirit, yearning for the extraordinary characteristics of this path? Or is it that by gathering specific materials, he can fully come to life without being controlled by anyone? You can ask, it's not a wish. Who knows if this is fraud? A bunch of question marks appeared in Bernard's mind, and he really wanted to continue asking. Suddenly, she thought to herself, is this a new way to bewitch and make wishes? Bernard was about to refuse when the lamp god suddenly continued to speak. You can try taking me with you first, so that you can confirm my sincerity and personally supervise me. Are you sure your seal on me will be effective? You can imagine that you left here for some reason, and I broke free from supervision. When you finish your work and come back, you will find that the entire castle has turned into a twisted monster. Wang Zichuan smiled lightly, as if talking about something insignificant. But I let out a sigh in my heart. I didn't want to act like a big villain, but why don't you believe me when you speak well? Bullying Billy is more suitable for persuading people with inner kindness. A gentleman can deceive him, but alas, the headlight god is not a good person. Bernadette's refusal to export was swallowed back, her mind rapidly spinning, desperately thinking about how to reinforce the seal. Use the characteristics of the seal to restrain each other. Can pale death make him fall into a deep sleep? Although this is a seal formed by the extraordinary characteristics of Sequence 1, it may not necessarily affect the unique seal that even true gods cannot shatter. Hold a ceremony and pray to which deity to reinforce the seal. Concealing the wise. I'm afraid that if we haven't found a way to reinforce the seal yet, we'll be bombarded with knowledge by hidden sages. The night goddess in the Zhengshan has hidden authority and is likely to strengthen the seal, but I am not a follower of the night goddess. How could I receive a response? The god of steam and machinery. Perhaps the wishing lamp will indeed be sealed, and then what? Will the saints or angels of the church come in an instant to pursue the lamp? I am now the holder. What is the difference between giving my life to someone else? Bernadette pondered for a moment, neither wanting to make a deal with the seal nor truly provoking the lamp god to cause irreparable damage. It has been so many years since my father was assassinated, and after being promoted to sainthood, I really haven't felt so powerless for a long time. Bernadette sighed inwardly. You can think it over, and that's all for today. Wang Zichuan saw Bernadette pretending to be calm without speaking, and secretly rubbed and smiled for a while. Returning his power to the magic lamp, Wang Zichuan was very satisfied with his performance. Bernadette did not realize that I had secretly distorted her cognition, making her believe that if she did not keep the magic lamp by her side, it would definitely cause terrible consequences. And without considering, why hasn't the magic lamp done this for so many years? That's because of rule limitations. Without communication, I have no distortable goals and cannot arbitrarily distort intentions and facts based on empty space. The next step is to have Bernadette agree to take me with her, and this precise commitment has more room for manipulation. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. An Ancient Book. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. An Ancient Book. Wayne, Tianjin City, Ahua County, Suburban. This is a standalone small building with a large garden. There is also a green lawn outside the garden. In spring, the gentle and brilliant sunshine jumps on the delicate petals of different varieties of flowers, the lawn is lush, and each leaf is spreading its vitality. This is a well-maintained house. Sir, look, this is the best single-family house in this area. The rental agent is working hard to showcase their best and most expensive property to the serious client in front of them. He took out the key, opened the door, pointed to the garden and lawn, and said, "You see, we have carefully taken care of the garden and lawn." Then he pointed to the building and exterior decoration, and said, "This house has only recently undergone comprehensive maintenance and renovation. You can take a look here, and here, are all brand new." The intermediary led the guest into the house and continued to introduce, "This is the bedroom, which has a large glass window facing the garden. You can enjoy the beauty of the garden at different times in the morning, afternoon, and evening." After introducing all the rooms, furniture, and supporting facilities, the agent looked at the guest with a hopeful expression and said, "What do you think?" "Very good." The guest's voice was deep and heavy. Tianjin City is a medium-sized city in Ahua County, with a relatively small population of only a few 100,000 people, so the antique market here is also not large. The few shops that purchase and sell antiques have very few customers coming in and out. Mr. Haynes Vincent, with eyes like pandas and hair like hedgehogs, spent a pleasant afternoon at the Divination Club. After dinner, Hainaz came to the antique market located in the northern district. Hainaz has two hobbies: divination and antique collection. He spends almost all his spare time wandering around the fortune-telling club on Howell Street and the antique market in the North District. And both of these hobbies are related to mysticism. Hainaz has been studying mysticism in recent years, hoping to use mystical methods to solve his hidden illnesses, and his efforts have not been in vain. He not only has a small reputation in the divination club and is often invited to teach by the club, but just a few years ago, a friend he met at the club, Cyrus Aripes, introduced him to join an organization with a great presence to watch. Once he passes the organization's assessment, he can obtain magic potions and become an extraordinary person with magical powers. Cyrus told him that the extraordinary beings of this path have mastered magical rituals and magic, and by holding rituals and praying to great beings, they can solve their own physical problems. Hainaz firmly believes in this. Hainaz will come to the antique market every once in a while, and there are often unexpected surprises here. For example, magical items that are mistaken for ordinary antiques. For example, mystical notes recognized as ordinary ancient texts. Of course, Hainaz had never encountered the magical item, but he had bought a magical scroll at a low price. Moreover, he also collected many incomplete pages and notes related to mysticism through the antique market, as well as a piece of parchment that is said to be a treasure map. As the sky grew darker, there seemed to be more people entering and exiting the antique market than during the day. Hainaz walked into a frequently frequented storefront. The boss is a chubby old man with only a few strands of hair left. He is very prone to sweating, even though it is the most comfortable temperature this season. He frequently reaches into his pocket, takes out a slightly yellowish-white handkerchief, quickly wipes the sweat stains on his forehead, and then puts it back into his pocket. There are no other customers in the store, and the boss is sorting out some ancient books that appear to be newly collected. Upon hearing a sound, the boss looked up at the store door and noticed that it was a regular customer named Hainaz. He greeted with a smile and said, "Mr. Hainaz, do you want to come and take a look? I have recently obtained some ancient books that may be from the Quaternary period." Hainaz walked over quickly and saw some well-preserved books. Among these books with dim covers, blurred handwriting, and somewhat incomplete or worn out, there is a notebook with a deep black cover. It has a complete appearance, is clean overall, looks relatively new, but gives people a sense of ancient and distant. This contradictory atmosphere is so tempting, as if it hides infinite secrets, deeply attracting the gaze of Hainaz. I want to buy it. Hainaz made the decision immediately. You said this notebook, it's a gift from this batch of ancient books. The chubby boss couldn't understand when he heard that Hainaz was the first to ask about this notebook that didn't look like a quaternary ancient book. My friend said he didn't know if he had been blinded by butter at the time and bought it as a valuable ancient book. I flipped through it and found that there were some inexplicable symbols inside that I couldn't understand at all. Those scumbags who forge antiques think that just making up some incomprehensible symbols can make people think they are ancient characters and collect and study them. The chubby boss spat uncontrollably, his fingers pointing randomly, and expressed his disdain for the low IQ counterfeiters with full emotions. After speaking, he took out a handkerchief and wiped his forehead again. Well, I think it sounds quite interesting, I want to buy it. Hainaz casually fabricated a less convincing reason, but the reason is not really important. Okay, £100, you can take it. The chubby boss smiled cunningly. What are you saying? What are you joking about? Hainaz felt like his ears suddenly broke. Hee, I think the notes that can appear together with these ancient books must have research value. Although I can't understand these symbols, they are arranged neatly and beautifully, and their changes are so dynamic. If we can interpret these symbols, it will definitely create a huge sensation in the world of archaeology. You say, right. The fat boss immediately completed a logically rigorous inference. After a round of bargaining, Haynes took this strange notebook with him for £25. 19, House Street. In the spacious living room, the windows and doors are tightly closed, and the gas wall lamp quietly emits a soft light. Cyrus Euripes, who is over 100 years old and has sparse hair, is half kneeling on the ground. In front of him is a stylish and well-crafted wooden coffee table, with a beautiful square wooden box placed on it. Inside the wooden box, there is a silver cross placed upside down, long on top and short on the bottom. Sirius straightened his upper body, straightened his figure, closed his eyes, and devoutly recited softly. The Lord who created everything. You are the master behind the shadow curtain. You are the fallen nature of all living beings. You exist in all things, and you have given life to the lambs. Your humble servant prays devoutly to you. Praise you, great Lord. Cyrus repeated it several times before getting up and carefully folding the wooden box, locking it into the safe. After finishing all of this, he breathed a soft sigh of relief, then opened the door, walked towards the restaurant, and instructed the maid in charge of the kitchen to prepare dinner. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Letters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Letters en Mat Port, in a sunny room. The glass protruding from the belly window reflects a handsome face, with dark pupils, deep eye sockets, long eyelashes, and slightly raised corners. His slender and dark eyebrows fly diagonally into his temples, his nose is straight, his lips are thin and bright red, his facial contours are clear, his skin is smooth and without any wrinkles, but his face is slightly pale, without any blood color. It seems that he has not been exposed to the sun for a long time, giving this young and extremely handsome gentleman a pathological and eerie beauty. He held an envelope that had just been opened in his hand, took out the letter from inside, and stood in front of the bright window, browsing through the letters from his subordinates. Dear Mr. Z, following your teachings, I pray devoutly to the great Lord every day, which makes me feel purified and elevated both physically and mentally, liberated my spirit, and I feel the existence of the Lord. He exists in all things, in my body. Additionally, I developed a believer in Tianjin. He is active in the circle of mystical enthusiasts in Tianjin and has a high reputation in the circle of fortune-tellers. He has been studying mysticism for many years and has gained a deeper understanding of it. He only needs one guide to push open the door to an extraordinary world. I used the reason of exploring mysticism to discreetly promote our ideas to him. He strongly agrees with us and believes that mystery exists in every human body. As long as we use appropriate methods to tap into our own potential, we can achieve extraordinary power. His name is Haynes Vincent, and he is a wise and sociable person. I believe he has been very helpful for our great mission in the city of Tianjin, so I would like to recommend him to you. Please find attached the information of Shanghai Nas Vincent, and we are waiting for your instructions at any time. The white fingers with distinct joints pulled out a few thin sheets of writing paper from the envelope, and a photo fell off as the paper was pulled out. This handsome Mr. Z reached out and caught this photo. This is a half-portrait of Haynes Vincent, dressed in a black classical robe with a background of a fortune-telling club. He should be in his 30s, and his thick brown hair seems to lack maintenance, crisscrossing in all directions. Because his hair is thick and firm with distinct roots, it reminds Mr. Z of the nest of seabirds. His skin is rough, and there are even some obvious acne marks, with dark circles around the eyes and thick eye bags below the eyelids. Mr. Z couldn't help but furrow his pretty eyebrows as soon as he saw the picture of Hennessy Vincent clearly. He didn't look away, and a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Oh, why doesn't he believe in a tyrant when he looks like this? Mr. Z stood in front of the window for a while before suddenly speaking abruptly. Humph, Silas, this idiot, anyone wants to develop into an organization. He brought the information of Haynes Vincent back to his eyes, hastily browsed through it, and then turned back to the desk in the room. He sat at the desk, picked up a new piece of writing paper, and began to reply. Pray devoutly to the Lord. You need to put more effort into welcoming the arrival of the Lord's offspring, do a good job of collecting materials, and choose a sufficiently concealed and suitable location for the preliminary work. You should. The fact that Haynes Vincent joined the organization is still under investigation. Hainas hurriedly returned home and did not go to bed after washing up as usual. He cleaned it briefly and brought the newly obtained notes to the living room. The notes with a dark black hard paper cover were placed on the desk, and Hainas couldn't wait to open the first page. Then, Hainas froze and realized that he didn't recognize these words. Doo-doo-doo-doo, there was a hurried knocking on the door at 19, House Street. As the sky brightened, Haynes Vincent hurriedly arrived at the block where Cyrus Aripes was located and knocked on the door of room 19. Cyrus had already woken up early and sat in the lounge waiting for breakfast. After the servant inquired with the master, he opened the door and welcomed Haynes, who had more prominent dark circles under his eyes, into the living room. Cyrus is already waiting in the living room. Haynes, good morning. Is there anything you need to visit me so early? Cyrus asked Hainas, who appeared anxious and excited, with a hint of curiosity. Hainas looked around the living room and found no servants present. He lowered his voice and said, Sirius, I have a magical notebook. I think it may be the magical item you mentioned. What? Where did you put it? Take it with you. Cyrus was shocked and quickly stood up. Instead of moving forward, he took a few steps back and asked in some fear. Yes, I brought it. Speaking, Hainas quickly took out his notes and approached to show them to Cyrus. Cyrus quickly stepped back a few more steps, approaching the door of the living room with a nimble hand that did not match her age. Meanwhile, speaking in a slightly elevated tone. Stop, don't get close, put it on the coffee table. Hainas only then realized that Cyrus had some unreasonable reactions. He placed his notes on the marble coffee table as requested by Cyrus. Then he asked in confusion, what's wrong? Cyrus. Cyrus carefully discerned the state of Haynes for a while and found that he had no abnormalities. He breathed a slight sigh of relief and then shifted his gaze to the notes on the dark black cover of the coffee table. After reading for a while, he did not feel any abnormal spiritual touch, so he looked at Hainas with a tone of reproach. Didn't I teach you that magical items have terrible negative effects? Don't touch them recklessly as they can affect you, pollute you, and even turn you into a monster. How can you just carry them with you like this? Hainas moved his lips, but did not make a sound. Then he murmured softly, "But there's nothing unusual about it. Why do you think this note is a magical item?" Cyrus said as he walked over to the coffee table, examining the notebook. "I found it in the antique market, and as soon as I saw it, I couldn't move my eyes. Although it didn't look like an ancient book, I still insisted on buying it back at a high price. I don't think ordinary ancient books would have such a great attraction to me. I returned home and found the symbols or text on them, which looked familiar to me, but I didn't recognize them. Although I cannot distinguish these words, when I look at them carefully, I feel dizzy. I feel like these words have a suction force that firmly holds onto my spirit and mind. I want to crack these words, and my intuition tells me that there must be secrets hidden here. Cracking them will bring great rewards." Cyrus didn't answer and reached out to open the cover of the note. What catches the eye are some familiar words, but they are not commonly used modern writing, nor are they related to mysterious and extraordinary Hermetic texts. Cyrus carefully identified it and found that it was somewhat similar to the common writing structure of the northern continent, but it was not written by any country such as Ruan, Visak, or Intis. This should be ancient Phozak, which evolved from the common language of the modern North Continent, so you may feel familiar but not familiar with these characters. I'm not very familiar with the Gufusak language either. I think we need to go to the library to borrow some dictionaries or related references. The two of them studied the notes for a while, but due to their inability to interpret the text, they found nothing. In the end, the two decided that the notes should be kept by Cyrus. Haynes went to his own circle to inquire if he could find translation materials for ancient Visak literature in university. Cyrus went to the Dervo library to borrow relevant dictionaries. A day passed by in a hurry, and in the evening, Haynes and Cyrus gathered again at 19 Howe Street to exchange the gains of the day. Haynes had no actual gain as he had to rely on friends to inquire about the situation of the library at Hoi University. Cyrus has borrowed dictionaries and related books such as The Origins and Evolution of Old Phozak and History of Northern Civilization from the Dervo Library. The two of them translated the words in their notes step by step into the dictionary. This is difficult because there is a significant difference between ancient and modern writing, and if it weren't for the structure of sentences and the similarity of vocabulary roots to modern writing, they wouldn't even be certain that this is a variant of ancient and modern writing. The two of them were busy for almost a night, until they turned slightly white outside the window and heard hungry protests in their stomachs. It was only then that they realized they had stayed up all night, and Cyrus even forgot to pray to the great existence. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Notes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Notes. My father is on his deathbed, and he told me not to mourn his death. Death is not the end, and after our family members die, they will enter our ancestors' secret divine kingdom, which will continue to exist and bless our own family. I can't understand, I can't suppress my sadness. When organizing my father's belongings, I found a page of parchment in his collection, which seemed to be a mystical title. Incarnate. Miracle. The City of the Dead. Where is the fate of the Antigonus family? Does the secret divine kingdom really exist? War, chaos. Many industries in different places have suffered damage due to the war, which has forced me to travel around and struggle to cope. The extraordinary power of the family has been severely damaged. In order to supplement the family's strength, the elders in the family demanded that I become an extraordinary person. The extraordinary path mastered by the Antigonus family is the fortune teller path, and the low sequence players in this path have almost no combat power. I must become at least a medium sequence player in the shortest possible time. Cyrus and Hainas were translating and organizing the manuscript, guessing and mistakenly connecting the deciphered vocabulary into understandable sentences. Not all words in the notes can be translated, some words cannot be found in the dictionary, and some paragraphs seem to be strange symbols, not in ancient Kazakh script, and cannot be translated at all. The translated content from the first 2 pages of the notes told them that this was a note from the Antigonus family, a nobleman of the Solomon Empire in the 4th century. A family that masters the path of a fortune teller. The secret order also holds onto this path. Is there any connection between this? Cirrus murmured to herself as she faced the translated notes. It was already dawn, and Sirius's servant noticed that his master, who was accustomed to getting up early, had not woken up to enjoy breakfast, and his friend had not gone out all night. The maid couldn't help but imagine in her mind, but when she thought about the owner's age and the appearance of the guests, she decisively extinguished her wild thoughts. The maid arrived at the entrance of the living room, gently knocking on the door while asking the owner if they had already woken up and if they needed to prepare breakfast. Upon hearing the servant's inquiry, Sirius said to Haynes, "Let's go have breakfast first, and then you can go back and rest. We need more information to better translate this note." In a dark storage room sealed by a higher standard of power, a golden oil lamp in the shape of a kettle floats out of thin air. Suddenly, the spout of the kettle sprays out a strange substance with a sticky texture, resembling light and shadow like water flow. It converges and stretches in the constant transformation of light and shadow, presenting a man in a gorgeous robe. This figure has clear and authentic colors, with a faint golden mist swirling around it. The mist is erratic and distorts into various indescribable forms. Finally able to come out and breathe, the feeling of being imprisoned is indescribable. Wang Zichuan only felt that there were too many flaws to speak of. It has been several months since I traveled to the mysterious world, and I started with the old days. However, after such a long time, I still can't get out of my birthplace and crouch in the lamp, unable to be free. It's simply a shame for a traveler. Why do I see other interlopers, no matter how hellish their starting situation may be, quickly get out of their predicament, face each other and upgrade all the way, rising to the top? For example, 3 years of becoming a god and 5 years of old. While roast that he had not hung up, Wang Zichuan could not punch God and kick the Heavenly One, while trying his own abilities and limitations. For such a long time, he didn't do anything except harass Bernadelle. Through a broader perspective and more extensive paper experience, he thought of imitating Mr. Ku's own summoning, responding to his own misdeeds, trying to make wishes to himself, and then realizing his own wishes. He twisted his own wishes to achieve a certain extent of breaking free from the seal of the magic lamp, revealing more power to the outside world, trying to use his high grid to influence the low sequence extraordinary in this path, achieving the goal of leaving and gaining more freedom. Wang Zichuan felt his own state, and his image was no longer the glittering figure he had before. It had become more realistic and more like an ordinary spiritual body, with a semi-imaginary and semi-transparent form with distinct colors. He looked around Bernard's storage room and sighed as if a child with parents was like a treasure, then drifted to the edge of an invisible seal, trying to pass through the thick spiritual wall. Then, he shamelessly failed. He once again sensed the low-sequence individuals in the range of this pathway, and was surprised to find that there was only one. Fortunately, there is also one. After all, the secret base of the mysterious queen did not have many people. Feeling the invisible seal blocking him, Wang Zichuan pondered for a moment and decided to make a wish to himself again. I hope there are loopholes in the seal in front of me that only I can pass through. The reason why I didn't wish for the seal of the collection room to disappear is that it would most likely inspire Bernard to come and check. After speaking, he mobilized the characteristics of the miracle master in the magic lamp and his ability to distort rules, realizing his own wish. He randomly assigned a person within his perception range, calculated his wishes onto that person, and directly associated the holder and the maker, distorting the rules and bypassing Bernadelle. After all, as a conscientious old man, he did not want to kill Bernadelle. Otherwise, as long as he keeps making wishes, any holder will die suddenly at any time, and it all depends on his mood. As he mobilized his power to fulfill his wish, a strange loophole appeared in the seal, like a big hole poked directly by some force, enough for him to easily pass through. He drifted out of the collection room, wandering freely in the empty halls and uninhabited corridors of the castle. He did not attempt to enter any room to avoid touching the psychic extraordinary. He drifted out of the Emerald Palace and saw the undulating sea. That's great. This feeling of freedom. This world is full of mystery. After quietly admiring the magnificent sea for a while, Prince Chuan decided to make more preparations for his freedom. With a mystical connection to the extraordinary characteristics of this pathway, Wang Zichuan quickly found the extraordinary figure of the Black Emperor pathway. His name is Dieter Mayer, and he is a bribe-taker in sequence 7. Wang Zichuan silently stared at Dieter in his sleep, the briber showing no signs of being disturbed and still in a deep sleep. In his dream, Dieter's scene suddenly changed and he returned to his most familiar place, Compton. Here, he forgot that he was extraordinary and seemed to believe that he was just the only child of a small factory owner in Constance. Although his father, the owner of a small factory, could not provide him with a luxurious life, he also lived a comfortable life from a young age. After graduating from school, he did not have to worry about employment. He was always taken by his father to learn how to run a family factory, so that he could inherit the family business in the future. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Nightmares. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Nightmares. Dieter's life was originally happy and fulfilling, with all his troubles being insignificant, until one day, after a date with a girl he had a crush on, he returned home and found that his father had turned into a terrifying monster. He will never forget the scene of that day in his lifetime, although he has been trying to fade the memories of that day and the pain that was hard-won in his heart. In his dream, he forgot these things and returned to his familiar doorstep once again. Without any hesitation, he twisted the door handle and pushed open the door. Just as he pushed open the door, it seemed like something intangible had been broken. He didn't pay attention and walked directly into the hallway. Then, he froze. The house was a hellish scene, covered in blood and corpses, and the sound of a monster like Lotus echoed in my ears. My eyes were red, and my nose was filled with a pungent smell of rust and foul odor. Dieter's heart was racing, his brain was dizzy, his whole body was weak, and all his muscles were uncontrollably shaking. The sound of Holland was getting closer and closer, and although Dieter didn't know what had happened and was driven by fear, he wanted to escape immediately, but his body was completely out of control. Then, he saw a monster with a father's face and walked towards him step by step. He collapsed to the ground, trying hard to push his legs back, feeling overwhelmed by immense fear. Suddenly, he heard rhythmic sounds of "duh" and "duh" coming from behind. The sound was not loud, just like a woman in leather boots slowly walking towards him. He dare not turn back. The sound of clattering footsteps stopped in front of him diagonally. This was a tall lady, and he couldn't see her face, only her chestnut-long hair. He saw that she seemed to just wave her hand, and the monster melted into a starlight. He felt that this beautiful figure was so mysterious, so powerful, that it raised an infinite sense of reverence from the bottom of his heart, making him want to follow her regardless of anything and dedicate all his loyalty to her. I also want such extraordinary power, I must have such power in order to follow her. The dream suddenly shattered, and Dieter woke up suddenly. After regaining consciousness, he took a long breath and whispered, "So it's a dream." Then he chuckled and muttered to himself, "I thought I had forgotten all of this." His mind once again conjured up the image that appeared before him, saving him and completely changing his life. Afterwards, for various reasons, she gave herself a potion to become an extraordinary person, and then joined her organizational element Dawn, who has been working for her until now, becoming her trusted follower. He murmured to himself, "Yes, I need strength. After all these years, I have only been in sequence 7 and can only help the Queen with some miscellaneous tasks. In important matters, I have no ability to participate at all. I do need strength and need to improve my sequence as soon as possible." As if he had determined his thoughts, he lay down again. The crimson full moon outside the window was in the sky, and the quiet night spread. The room quieted down, with only the sound of even breathing blending into the light darkness. Wang Zichuan revealed his true background, silently grinned his lips, and then disappeared completely. Wang Zichuan restrained his spirit and strength and returned to the interior of the magic lamp. It is now spring of 1349, and the fool will soon arrive. So far, I have initially broken free from the state of being unable to move a single step, and can have a small impact on the people around me. But due to the relatively small number of people in Bernadotte's secret base, I don't have many choices. Bernadotte's subconscious has been distorted by me, amplifying my ability to harm, and it is likely that he will take me with him when he leaves La Xia Island. Well, I should make some more noise to make Bernadette realize that staying on La Xia Island will cause big trouble sooner or later. As a businessman, Cyrus Euripes still needs to carry out normal business activities during the day. On the one hand, he hides his identity as a member of a secret organization, and on the other hand, he runs around for tasks assigned by the organization, which usually require collecting materials, developing followers, preparing activity venues, etc., all of which require a considerable amount of money. And applying for funding from the organization. Oh, do you think this is the Orthodox Church? Are you not devout enough in your belief in great existence? Since deciphering some of the notes, Cyrus has been very interested in the content of this note and is eager to learn more about it. The content of the last crack shows that this is a note from the Antigonus family in the Quaternary era. The extraordinary path of the Antigonus family mentioned in the note is exactly the extraordinary path mastered by the secret order. Sirius is slightly worried that the members of the secret order will come to retrieve this note. We need to decipher the other contents of this note as soon as possible. Cyrus decided to invite Haynes to his home tomorrow to continue deciphering the note. Mr. Vincent, can I still ask you about divination next time? No problem, you can come to me anytime, Haynes replied happily. Finally, thinking that being alone might affect the reputation of the young girl across from her, he added, at the fortune-telling club. Heinaz watched as the wine-red girl with long hair left. He took out his pocket watch and opened it to take a look. He realized that the time he had agreed with Cyrus was approaching, so he got up and left the fortune-telling club, heading towards number 19 in the same block. Cyrus once again welcomed Haynes into the living room. Cyrus searched for various literature materials and dictionaries, then opened the safe and carefully took out the Antigonus family notes with a dark black cover. Spread it out on the coffee table, flipped to the end of the last time, and the two continue to translate word by word. This is an extraordinary path based on divination, so do the high-sequence powerhouses in the family have any foresight of the family's fate? Today my mother went out and encountered a battle between extraordinary people. She's just an ordinary person. I want to protect her, but how can I protect my family? After visiting my clan elders, I obtained the magic potion formula. Sequence 9 Fortune Teller Lava Octopus. After becoming an extraordinary person, I gained the permission to access family historical materials. I accidentally discovered that in the family's records, it is said that the Antigonus family originated from the Hornache Mountains. This is strange, how could it come from the mountains? Are they refugees who fled into the deep mountains? This is too untrue, isn't it? These materials mention that the ancestors of the Antigonus family once lived on the main peak of the Hornache Mountains, in a small country called the Kingdom of Night. The belief in the Kingdom of Night is the ruler of the night, the mother of heaven. Here, people live a normal life, no different from the outside world and society. However, the biggest difference is that the residents of the Kingdom of Night believe that death is not the end. Seeing this, I recall my father's words before his death. I believe that my father has a better understanding of the history of the Antigonus family. What secrets exist in this legendary Kingdom of the Night? Why does the family allow extraordinary people to understand or inherit this part? Perhaps it is a legend or a secret of history. Although studying until late at night, Cyrus and Haynes were both very excited. They not only gained some hidden history of the Quaternary, but also a potion recipe, which made them even more addicted to studying this notebook. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Haunted. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 9 Haunted La Xia Island is a very hidden island in the Misty Sea. Although it is known by the authorities, there is no correct navigation map, and almost no one can find it. The maid Julie finished her day's work and was preparing to return to her room to wash up and sleep. There are not many real human servants in the Jade Castle of Nuoda. Julie is the woman saved by the mysterious queen from the hands of pirates. She is the daughter of a poor woman from a small town in Linhai. Her family was too poor and she was sold by her father to a human trafficker. Later, she sold her to the sea and became a female slave. Perhaps due to her plain appearance, or perhaps because she was quickly rescued by the dawn after being resold. Fortunately, Julie has not encountered anything too terrifying and has not lost her passion for life. Julie is now living very happily in this dreamy jade palace, truly respecting Bernadette as a queen. As she passed by the kitchen, she heard the sounds of bang, bang, and bang coming from inside. Who is it? Still in the kitchen so late? Julie curiously approached the kitchen, poked her head out, and looked inside. The kitchen is not too dark, and the crimson moonlight shines through the window, illuminating various closets and cookstoves in the kitchen. Julie saw a figure in front of a stove covered in blood, which was rich and continuously dripping onto the ground. This figure covered in blood was holding an axe, chopping at a humanoid corpse one by one. Just as Julie was stunned by the terrifying scene before her, the blood man suddenly turned his head and looked at her maliciously. Ah! Julie let out a mournful scream and fainted directly to the ground. The lights in the corridor lit up one by one, and the butler Perry was the first to arrive. Afterwards, the extraordinary beings of the Emerald Castle gathered one after another. Mr. Perley first checked the surrounding environment and did not find any abnormalities. Then he woke up the maid Julie. What happened? Perley's voice was deep and steady, giving a very reliable feeling. I saw, there was a person in the kitchen covered in blood, he was chopping something. He suddenly turned his head to look at me, really, he was so scary. Julie sobbed out of the terrifying scene she had seen before, her tone filled with fear. Perley frowned and instructed the extraordinary, look around again, carefully check for any abnormalities. At this moment, the owner of the castle, Bernard, also walked over. Perley took 2 quick steps, approached Bernadette, and quickly explained the situation. Bernard remained expressionless, looking at Julie and then towards the kitchen, silently looking for a moment. After a while, she turned to Julie and said gently, "You go back to your room to rest first. Don't worry, it's already okay. If you're afraid, you can sleep with your friends." Then he said to the extraordinary, "You all go back, too." As everyone left, Perley said to Bernadette, "Your Majesty, have you found anything?" I carefully checked the kitchen and nearby rooms, and there was nothing, no grudges or ghosts, and no scent of outsiders. Could it be that Julie privately came into contact with an extraordinary object of unknown origin, contaminated and hallucinated? Julie was not contaminated, I checked her mental state. But, is it just Julie feeling dizzy and scared herself? Pelly blurted out in disbelief. No, no one will have this kind of illusion for no reason, Bernadette said confidently, then instructed Perley, investigate the entire castle tomorrow. Send someone to monitor Julie for a while to see if she will show any abnormal behavior afterwards. If this ghost has any purpose, this kind of thing may happen again, we can wait. The morning sunshine fills the emerald green castle, making the entire castle appear clear green, reminiscent of vitality, prosperity, and joy. The haunting incident last night did not follow, as if it was really just Julie's illusion. Mr. Perry, the manager, commands the extraordinary to thoroughly investigate all the rooms in the castle, including all possible places where strange items may be hidden such as desks, wardrobes, and lockers, as well as boxes for storing personal belongings. However, in the end, nothing was achieved. Mr. Perley reported to Bernadette, "We have inspected all the rooms in the castle except for your collection and living room, and have not found any suspicious items. Bernard nodded lightly and said, "Come with me to the collection room and take a look." All the way to the collection room, Bernadette temporarily opened the seal and entered the collection room. The collection room is quiet and without any abnormalities. Bernard and the butler Pearlie carefully checked the position and sealing status of each seal, counted other spiritual materials and extraordinary features, but did not find anything wrong. Bernadette walked to a cabinet with some large drawers and opened a drawer, which contained several bound ordinary notebooks and some scattered paper. They look very ordinary and have no supernatural qualities, but one can feel that they are protected by a magical force, protecting them from the decay of time. Upon seeing these diaries and papers, Bernadette's pupils suddenly contracted, and an indescribable surprise appeared on her usually calm face. Not right. Their positions have been slightly moved. Someone has looked through these diaries. Bernadette suddenly remembered a previous letter from Gardelia, stating that the Morse ascetic had received a prophecy, and at the time, she even suspected that the key to the prophecy was related to her father. Recently, she has been asking members of the Dawn Element to collect information from various places, trying to find some clues. Now my father's diary has been secretly tampered with, and my own Emerald City has been secretly invaded by unidentified intruders. Thinking of all this, Bernadette trembled with excitement and couldn't calm down for a long time. After a long time, Bernadette suppressed her emotions and instructed Pearlie, "Go get a crystal ball over here, I want to do divination." Upon hearing this, Pearlie was slightly surprised, but then thought that Her Majesty the Queen might have noticed, so she immediately turned around and left, quickly returning with a crystal ball. Bernadette took the crystal ball and faced the open drawer. She held the crystal ball in one hand and groped for its surface with the other. She stretched her spirituality and let it flood into the crystal ball, murmuring softly, "The last time I've looked through these materials is a living creature." The crystal ball suddenly lit up, with stars twinkling inside. For a long time, the light of the crystal ball dimmed, and Bernadette took a long breath. In the revelation of astrology, she saw a blurry figure, which was hazy and elusive, with countless symbols symbolizing order, shadow, eerie, and change appearing and disappearing. Bernard frowned, which was significantly different from her expected outcome, and the blurry figure did not give her a sense of familiarity. She suddenly felt a sense of disappointment and powerlessness, like a homeless child. Staring at the diary in the drawer for a while, Bernadette took a deep breath, regained her energy, pushed the drawer back, and then exited the collection room with housekeeper Pearlie to reseal it. The astrological results do not indicate anything, they can only indicate that this incident has nothing to do with the father. And that prophecy, there are still many things waiting for me to do. Father, Father. Where the hell are you? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Tasks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Tasks. Upon receiving Mr. Z's reply, Cyrus carefully read it and suddenly remembered that there had been no progress on the task assigned to him by the organization before. Mr. Z, this is warning me. My recent thoughts have been on cracking notes, and I haven't made any other preparations for that big matter. Cyrus panicked and thought of the exceptionally handsome Mr. Z, his powerful and evil power, and his bloody and cruel punishment methods. Cyrus felt his clothes soaked in cold sweat and panicked as he spun back and forth in the room. After a while of wandering, Cyrus forced himself to calm down and decided to go and collect the remaining materials today. Yes, it can still be remedied. Mr. Z just warned me, there's still time. Cyrus suppressed the urge to borrow books from the library and continue interpreting the notes of the Antigonus family. After disguising his face and figure, he hurriedly left the house. Ordinary spiritual materials can be found in pharmacies or underground markets, while special materials can only be asked at that extraordinary gathering. After going out, Cyrus went down the street for a walk and then went to the Dragon Bar in the dock area. I have prepared almost all the materials for decorating the altar before, but there is still some special one left. I don't know if I can find it in the underground trading market. Where is the altar arranged? The personnel in the factory area are complex and highly mobile. Workers work during the day and have no time to wander around at night. If they rent a suitable room, even if there is some noise inside, no one will care. The Divine Son needs a mother body as a container for descent. You can easily find a girl over there. There are missing people over there, and no one will care except for her family. And her family couldn't afford to waste so much time on finding her instead of making money. The biggest problem is that once the altar is opened, there will inevitably be some signs and anomalies, which will be noticed by the extraordinary members of the church. How can this be hidden? Cyrus feels that the task of welcoming the arrival of the Son of God is really difficult. Why not write a letter to Mr. Z, asking him for some help? No, Mr. Z will think that I am foolish and incompetent. What is the use of keeping useless subordinates? Cyrus shivered for a moment and became even more dedicated in searching for materials in the market. In the evening, Hainaz visited Cyrus again and saw the two of them locking themselves in the living room, causing the servants to turn a blind eye. Closing the door, Hainaz spoke first and said, "Cyrus, I went to the antique market again today. I heard from the owner who sold me notes before that a stranger has been asking who recently collected ancient books from the Quaternary period. Although they pretend to be antique enthusiasts, their goals are too clear and they are unfamiliar. The bosses suspect that they are looking for something, maybe someone who recently collected stolen goods and was found by the original owner. You said, did they come to search for this Antigonus family notebook?" Upon hearing this, Cyrus pondered for a moment and said, "It's possible that the secret order has come over." Both of them fell silent, and then Cyrus said, "Let's quickly translate the rest of the content. We'll have to find a way to get rid of this notebook. The members of the secret order are very dangerous." Determined, the two of them became increasingly immersed in translating their notes. "My sister gave birth to a lovely little baby, and my mother was very happy. But she turned around and scolded me, urging me to get married quickly and give birth to offspring. It's really annoying. The fortune teller's potion did not bring significant changes to my body, and I digest it quickly. In a while, I will try to get promoted." Sequence 8 Joker, Adult Hornake Grey Goat. I went to see His Majesty the Emperor today, and I feel that His Majesty is becoming increasingly crazy. As a staunch supporter of His Majesty the Emperor, if we fail, our family may be liquidated by the victors. The Hornake Mountains are the source of the empire created by the Black Emperor, with the glory and history of the Solomon Empire. Perhaps there is not only the legacy of the Black Emperor, but also hope for the revival of the Antigonus family. In the kingdom of darkness, life and death coexist. Here, while alive, they devoutly believe in the Heavenly Mother, thanking her for giving them a peaceful life. When their lives come to an end, they will immerse themselves in their mother's divine kingdom. There, they start a new life. They believe that they have not passed away, they have entered the cycle of rebirth. The divine kingdom of the Heavenly Mother is located on that high peak, where there is a tall and magnificent palace, and her people receive the promised happiness in the divine kingdom. A steam train sprayed white mist, honked its whistle, and slowly came to a stop on the platform. Countless guests of different ages and wearing different clothes rushed out of the open car doors, like flowing water, suddenly spraying out of the carriage and then turning into a thin stream running in different directions. A young man with black hair and brown pupils walked out of the train station, carrying a small black suitcase. He has a handsome face, a full forehead, and a straight face. He wears round gold-rimmed glasses that cover his narrow eyes, and his mouth slightly curls up. At first glance, it seems like he is smiling politely, but upon closer inspection, it seems that this person is very proud and looks down on everyone. He is not from Tianjin City, so he has no fixed property here. He walked straight into a luxurious hotel and opened a room to stay. He has just been promoted to the fraudster of Sequence 8, and in order to fulfill his role, he has decided to plan a large-scale scam. The reason why he came to Tianjin is partly because it is just a small town of Rune, and the official powers of the extraordinary are limited. On the other hand, he has a friend who lives in Tianjin, and he is an extraordinary figure in the audience's way. Perhaps he can provide some help in this scam. In order to translate the notes of the Antigonus family as soon as possible, Cyrus ran to the Derville Library during the day in an attempt to borrow some more information about the Hornache Mountains. Unfortunately, as he has not returned the dictionary and other journal books he borrowed last time, he cannot borrow the books he wants this time. However, libraries do not prohibit people from reading books directly in the library. Passing by the geological and geography bookshelf, Cyrus suddenly thought of finding some books related to the Hornache Mountains, but found that a person had already stood in front of the bookshelf. This person is flipping through a book with colored pages, and as he cannot see the cover and spine, Cyrus does not know what he is reading. According to Cyrus's personality, as a successful businessman, in this situation, he would greet the other person and get to know them, but his current focus is on searching for reference books and translating notes as soon as possible, so he did not greet or attempt to get to know this handsome young man. Cyrus didn't pay attention to this person, but the young man wearing round glasses looked away from the page and carefully examined Cyrus for a while before moving his gaze away. Cyrus found a book called Geological Exploration of the Hornache Mountains, and flipped through it a few times. He found that it was filled with geological speculations about the formation process of this transcontinental mountain range, as well as theories about the impact of mountain ranges on the formation and economic development of surrounding cities. Cyrus put down the books and searched for a while on the geology and geography bookshelf. Several books or journals clearly related to the Hornache Mountains did not have the content he wanted to see. Cyrus had to follow the original plan and head to the bookshelf of archaeological books to search for historical research related to the Quaternary period. End of this chapter.